So, how does the Rysel RCR feel to ride? So, a bit of a different video for me today, not my usual vlogging style, but yeah, we're going to go through how the bike feels to ride. We're going to look at the different categories, things like comfort, stiffness, and so on. There's already a video up on my channel which goes through the specs of the bike that I'm riding, so feel free to check that out. But yeah, today we're going to be looking at sort of how it feels in general. But just to give a very, very brief overview of what we are riding. So we have the Rysel RCR, Zip 303 carbon wheels, Data bar and stem, and this is the SRAM Rival Axis version with carbon seat post and Decathlon's kind of own brand saddle. So the bike is more or less stock. I have it with Conti GB5000s. I think it comes with Michelin Power Cups, so more or less of a stock bike, apart from the tyre change. Let's take it for a spin and talk about some of the aspects of the bike. Jeez, it's super hot today. Sun cream on, but I feel like it's already coming away from my sweat. One quick thing to note, this is my own bike that I've paid for with my own money, so these are completely legitimate thoughts of my own, and yeah, it's a kind of non-biased, let's say, talk about the bike. Right, let's go. So starting with the overall comfort of the bike. Now, first of all, we need to say that this is obviously designed as an aggressive aerodynamic race bike. This is the same frame in terms of the shape of the frame and the geometry that the World Tour riders are riding in the Tour de France, in the Giro and things like that. This bike is not designed to be a comfortable, you know, easy riding bike that you can do thousands of kilometers on. This type of bike is bought primarily with performance in mind and possibly comfort second. If you're looking at something like this through the aspect of I want comfort first, then possibly you're looking at the wrong type of bike. You know, maybe you need to be looking at an endurance bike or a gravel bike or something like that. But having said that, does this bike feel uncomfortable? Absolutely not. I mean, once you get used to the geometry, once you spend more and more time on the bike and your body becomes more flexible, maybe you do some stretching and things like that, you can definitely achieve a aggressive aerodynamic position and still be comfortable. But for me, you know, I've done some long rides on this thing. I've done over 100k several times. I never feel that worn out by the end of it. I never feel, you know, like my bones have been rattled. I don't feel uncomfortable. I've not gained any sort of pain areas or, you know, things like sore backs or anything like that. Also, there's definitely loads of different things that you can try to do to maximize the comfort. One of the things that I've done is I've switched to tubeless. I think the bike comes tubeless ready, but it's with inner tubes. So I've switched those out and I've set it up tubeless. I think the rims already had tape in them, if I remember correctly. You've just got to put sealant in, use a tubeless ready tyre, and yeah, go for it. So I've gone tubeless because that way you can run lower PSIs. I think I'm running about 55 PSI in my tyres. So that definitely helps with the comfort. The other thing to note is that I live here obviously in Spain, where the roads are generally really good. I mean, the roads that we ride on out here are usually quite smooth tarmac for like 99% of it. So that's got to be taken into account. If I was living in the UK, I may be considering something that can fit wider tyres in. The clearance, maximum clearance, I think is 32 inches. You could probably squeeze something a little bit bigger in there. What I'm running is 28, so again, I could push up to 32 and get a little bit more comfort out of the tyres, but I don't necessarily feel the need to. Like I say, if the road quality wasn't so good out here, then I definitely would do that. But yeah, it's not an uncomfortable bike by any stretch, but you know, you've got to consider that when you're buying something like this, that this is designed for professional racers. So the saddle, I think it's all right. It's not the most comfortable saddle I've used. I've been riding it for quite a while and seem to be going okay with it. Saddles are obviously really, really subjective and really personal, so you know, it's not too expensive to swap that out to something that you know works for you. So yeah, I'm not going to say too much about that. I mean, it's an alright saddle, does the job for the short term. Probably think about getting something that is more customized to your fit and feel. But yeah, it's a super stiff bike. rides really nicely, but it is obviously a little bit firm. So moving nicely on to the stiffness of the frame, all I can say is, boy, this thing is real stiff, man. I mean, when you put power down through the pedals, you can feel how rigid the frame is, especially in the bottom bracket area. You can feel how it stays straight and doesn't flex at all, and you feel like almost 100% of your power is going into the wheels and onto the road, and then, you know, into forward motion. So yeah, it's super stiff in terms of power transfer. Obviously that means that it's then, you know, more stiff in terms of the feel of the frame and the ride comfort. But yeah, like I said, there's different ways of negating that, but it definitely feels like a super stiff bike. I mean, it's so responsive. My previous bike was an aluminium frame, so, you know, I'm moving from aluminium frame to this, and the stiffness difference is unbelievable. It's night and day. I'll stick up some footage of me putting power into the bike just to show you if you can see on the camera. But yeah, when you start to really put down some watts, this thing is so responsive. It just wants to go forward. It just wants to attack. This might be where we start to see the first real weakness of this particular model. To be honest, it climbs really well. Like I mentioned before, it's super responsive, super stiff, so when you're putting power in up the climb, it's transferring all into forward motion and helping you get up the climb. When you get out of the saddle and you start pushing it a little bit harder, it definitely wants to carry you forward really instantly. The one kind of negative I have to say, and this kind of relates more to the particular model that I'm riding rather than the whole package of the Rysel RCR, and that's just the weight. It's a little bit on the heavy side, so my full build with everything on it, including saddlebag, pedals, GPS with the mount, everything like that, comes to about 8.8 kilos, which is quite a lot, to be honest. It's definitely not featherweight. Obviously that doesn't matter so much when you're on the flat, but it has a bit of an impact on the climbs for sure, especially when it gets steep. I would say though that most of the weight for me comes from the whole group set, possibly the wheels as well, but mainly the group set, I think, because the frame itself, this is obviously the non-pro version, I think is only 40 grams heavier than the pro version. So if you go up a spec, in terms of frame, you're not really getting much lighter. But if you go up a spec and you're changing from SRAM Rival, which I've got, to Force or possibly up to Red, then you're going to see a significant weight saving. But having said that, you're also going to see a significant cost increase as well. So you've got to consider how much does weight come into play for you. Are you someone that wants to do hill climbing, or someone that, you know, just does a lot of climbing, or lives possibly in the Alps somewhere and wants to have a super light bike? Then in that case, you maybe look to try and spec up as much as you can. But if you're someone like me who just does kind of all-round riding, flat, descending, climbing, recreational, you know, not racing, then possibly weigh up how much you're willing to spend for the spec that you can go for and take it that way. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely love climbing on this bike. I don't see it as an issue at all. But if you're looking for out and out climbing performance, then yeah, it could be a little bit lighter. I'm definitely thinking about changing out the cassette, maybe the crank set, try and shift a bit of weight from there. The shifters as well, I think that would really make a big difference. me on to the last point, which is descending. And yeah, absolutely love descending on this machine. Who doesn't love descending anyway? But descending on this bike is just on another level, honestly. It feels really planted in the corners. You can feel that there's a big aerodynamic sort of advantage from the frame and the wheels and everything. You can feel yourself being sort of sucked down into the road ahead of you thanks to the aerodynamics of the bike. It corners really nicely. It's really easy to put where you want in the corner. So yeah, for me, top marks really for descending, for control through the corners, for just general speed going down the hill. So quick summary then, for me, yeah, it's a really solid bike. I think a few small upgrades would really go a long way to making this a top bike. I think going tubeless would be the first thing to do to improve the comfort ever so slightly, make that a little bit better, and then consider upgrading some of the group set components to try and bring the weight down. I think if you do those two things, then you've got a really good bike on your hands for not a huge amount of money. If you have any specific questions, feel free to let me know. Happy to answer whatever I can in the comments. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.